Welcome to ETCFO's Leadership Dialogues. Today, we are joined by a leader whose career spans over 26 years across diverse roles and industries. From audit and financial planning to corporate finance and M&A, he has steered high-performing teams and driven strategic transformation across sectors like oil and gas, transportation, power, and technology. Currently, he plays a crucial role at the helm of one of India's most respected business conglomerates. It is a pleasure to welcome Mr. Amarjyoti Barua, President and Group CFO of the Mahindra Group. Thank you so much, Mr. Barua, for joining us here on ETCFO Leadership Dialogues. It's our very much pleasure having you here.
Thank you so much for having me.
You know, to begin this conversation, I want to understand from you, how does one become the group CFO of such a big group as Mahindra is?
That's a tough one to start off. Um, if you look at the predecessors to in this role, what every one of them I think brought to the role was a very expansive view of how to think about business, because this is a group that requires you to have a very deep understanding of macro drivers of the economy, um, what drives individual industries, so that you can support the leaders of each of the industries that the group is in. And I think when you look across those, that's one common trait. They had a very strong understanding of macro dynamics and a very deep understanding of how it impacts industry. So I can only infer from that that's what maybe the group saw with my wide experience across industries, and having been in 8 different countries, lived there, worked there. I think I brought that perspective, which the group could see as a value add to its own journey. That's the only real answer I can give you, because rest is probably something that was discussed in the board meeting that I'm not privy to.
Right. And the Mahindra Group has over 100 plus subsidiaries, and 8 of them are publicly listed. It spans across 20 plus industries, such as auto, farm, and services. Uh, how do you keep track of things with such a such a big group in such a big group, and what part do you play in this puzzle?
A great question. Yeah. So the way we look at the group is in three buckets, right? So we basically identified two large businesses which are um, all about market leadership, which is our auto and farm business. They are already doing exceptionally well in the industry they are in. And the focus there is not about giving any direction or establishing the strategic vision. That leadership team is extremely strong and is doing that. So the focus there is more about how do you enable anything that they need on that journey. The second bucket are these businesses which require to up their execution. These are the businesses where, like Mahindra Finance and Tech Mahindra, where we haven't been as good as some of our peers. And the challenge there is really first stepping up our game and getting to that level. And then after that, achieving the kind of leadership that Auto and Farm have. There is a lot more hands-on involvement in some of the things that the team is doing. Mahindra Finance, as you are aware, I'm on the board, so I'm quite engaged with whatever direction the team is taking, whether it is any new line of business, which is an imperative that they have, which is diversify, or how they are driving asset quality. The third bucket is what we call the growth gems. There, the scale is not where it can be. So the potential is massive. We believe they can get to 5 to 10 times their current size. And there, most of the focus is around how do you enable whatever is needed to affect that vision that we have for those. So the point of giving this elaborate answer is, I think the way you manage a group of this size is you have to identify what each of these buckets need. And the first bucket doesn't need you to be involved on a day-to-day basis. The second bucket may require some day-to-day involvement in certain things. And the third bucket is all about growth. So there it is a more strategic, vision-led involvement. And that's how somebody in this position should be thinking about the group and how to drive some of the priorities.
Right. Well, that was an elaborate and it answer, and it gave the answers to my follow-ups also. You know, what are you currently driving? So there are different layers of what you are driving for as a CFO for Mahindra, that you gave in your response. Now, moving to leadership, since you are in a leadership role and it is a leadership role of finance, wherein there are so many subsidiaries and segments under you. So, what is leadership to you? How do you define it? And what changes have you made in your leadership style, or to say, how you lead teams in the recent past?
Absolutely. So, see, the being at a group level means that the day-to-day tactical part of the business, you have to depend on the leaders in those businesses, and these are the CFOs we have in each of the businesses. So when you think about what they need, they don't need to be told how to do their jobs, but their jobs are very consuming. I have been in similar roles in the past where you are in day-to-day firefighting in businesses. You are enabling on a day-to-day whatever the business needs to grow as well as to deliver profits. So it can be very consuming. In the midst of that, you need somebody to keep reminding you to focus on the things that will set the stage for the future. So a lot of what I need to do with the group CFOs is to keep reminding them to simplify the things that we are doing, to keep reminding them to focus on some of the growth vectors that they have identified, to keep reminding them to spend time with the teams on talent development, because they have to think about how not just the current team, but what is going to create the team of the future. So a lot of the involvement is that. So leadership for me in a position like this is about that. Now, specifically to finance and what is financial leadership, I think apart from just being very disciplined around capital and being very disciplined around risk and controllership, you also have a very important dimension to financial leadership, which is how do you think about what finance will look like 10 years from now and be prepared and be ready for that today. So a lot of the investments that we are making into tools and technology is not necessarily to solve something for today, but thinking about what the world will look like 10 years from now, where finance will have to be much more agile than it is today. It already is 10 times more agile than it was 20 years back. But now you have to think about the next 10 and the next 20. And so that's a big part of what financial leadership is about today.
So, from leadership, you spoke about the future teams, right? And what is the talent that you are hiring for in Mahindra Group? What is the next generation talent, or tech-led talent, or how are you having those conversations inside the group right now when it comes to talent and what you are seeking out of it?
Absolutely. That's a great question, too. See, the biggest thing I'm seeing changing in the finance function is people have to get used to operating without an army of people. We see finance was always a very headcount heavy function because there was that kind of work. It is laborious, it's long hours, it's a lot of ticking and tying and checking and passing of entries, etc. So there is a lot of effort required in the function. As that effort is getting reduced with the proliferation of technology, uh, it doesn't require that kind of large set of um, human beings doing some of the work. So one is future leaders have to get comfortable with smaller teams, more impactful teams. That's one thing that we look at. The leaders are not looking for the people who ask me the question, how large is my team, are usually, that's a red flag to me, right? They should be more concerned about what is their ecosystem they'll be operating in and what kind of impact they can have. That's one thing. The second thing is learners. So nobody can know everything that's happening around the world. No, I am not an expert on AI. Neither is most of my team. We are also learning along with the world. And but I need people who are inquisitive, who want to understand what the power of AI is. I am looking for people who understand how AI is going to evolve over the next 4 5 years. I went to a class in Harvard where the professor actually used these, and this sentence stayed with me. He said, "This is the worst form of AI you will get to see." What he meant by that is that what you see today, which feels so amazing, is actually the most basic form of AI you will see, and the world is going to be incredibly different 5 10 years from now. So that inquisitiveness of what the power of this could be, people who can understand what the leaders of thinking in AI are talking about, is a must in an organization. They don't have to be the expert, but they have to be inquisitive. So that's the second trait I'm looking for. And then the third trait, which has become extremely important, Shivam, is they must be collaborative. There gone are the days where leaders could just give orders and everybody followed. There is a new generation of leaders who are all about influence. And so these are leaders who collaborate very effectively and who get people to follow what they are asking or what they're seeking. Right. So these are the three traits we look for.
Right. And when you say, the finance role and what evolution is taking place in the tech space and how it has, eased the burden of a finance professional who had to do laborious work earlier, this role of a CFO is also evolving and it's going through an evolution. It has gone last 5 years, and like next 10 years, we are expecting it to be a complete overhaul. What used to happen, and there are questions being asked that what will a CFO do after 10 years, and even CFOs are asking the same question. So what's your answer to that? In 10 years from now, what will be a CFO doing?
Yeah. So if you think about the way the role has evolved, it evolved from somebody who keeps very clean set of books of accounts and ensures that you stay compliant with whatever is the accounting standards, to people who started using their understanding of what the numbers are saying to advise the CEOs, to now becoming more than an advisor, but also helping drive some of the things that the CEO is trying to drive. Many of these are growth initiatives. So big part of capital allocation is not about how you're going to raise money. It's more about how you're going to deploy, right? So while the traditional way of figuring out whether debt, equity, some other source of funding is still there, you're also thinking about how you're going to deploy it. What are the best ways? How do you most effectively utilize whatever funding you have raised? And kind of working with the businesses to ensure that it's good utilization of the capital that's been raised. So, and I think this is just going to continue where part of a big part of the CFO's role is going to be there's going to be a bunch of ideas coming from all over, right? Because people are going to need to be more innovative. Businesses are going to need to be more innovative, and so a CFO will have to help through the hundreds of ideas that will flow through, bring some semblance of order to that around how you will prioritize, and then also ensure that once you prioritize, whatever you think is the outcome is realized. So, it's easy to create a business case. It's almost always uh, 10 times more difficult to ensure you realize the business case. And so a lot of the CFOs will ensure that that is happening in there. So a big part of decision support, a big part of bringing um, some kind of some kind of logic to multiple ideas and choosing what is a best out of the lot, and then ensuring that what you're put into action is realized is kind of how I see the CFO role evolving even. The other thing that I think is going to be a big part of the CFO's role is, I think, understanding trends and what that means for business and how we should be thinking about it. As an example, it's the whole world is getting more insular. So being self-reliant in country has become a big uh, kind of need of the hour, right? Wherever you're going, all the governments are pushing towards, I don't want to be dependent on somebody else. So that would mean you need to be, if you have local operations, they should be as local as possible. But on the other hand, when you get so local, you also you are open to more risk, right? Because you're no longer diversified. So the CFOs also have to think about how do you keep the business diversified so that you can mitigate some of the risks in specific markets. So we are very focused on international growth for that reason, right? So that we have that counterbalance. So I think that those are some of the things that CFOs will be driving a lot more.
Right. One thing also I wanted to understand from you, the conversation these days are around self-reliance, and US has gone its way right now, and India, we are getting closer to a trade deal, bilateral trade deal with the US, and at risk are a lot of sectors which were earlier protected. Auto industry is one such industry where protectionism played a big part into where it is now in the country. So how do you see protectionism and protecting the sunrise sectors or the sectors which are crucial to the length and breadth of India?
Absolutely. Uh, it all depends on whether you have a level playing field. I think there should be no protection if there's a level playing field. What does a level playing field mean? You're operating with the same conditions as everybody else. Then the only thing that matters is how innovative you are, how fast you are, who's the fastest to market and the most innovative in market, right? So I think that is when you will have, when you don't need protectionism. The challenge with a global setup is there is no way to ensure level playing field because everybody doesn't follow the same set of rules or norms, right? Depending on their stage of evolution, linking back to what I said earlier. So I think that's where industry, especially industry that is in an early phase of evolution, or even kind of developed but not yet fully mature, needs support from the government. And I think that's how the government is looking at something like an auto. See, the auto industry in India, just to give you some perspective, um, there's only 26 vehicles per 1,000 people in India. In China is 10 times that, the US is 20 times that. Okay? So when you take that statistic into account, we are a long way from becoming a mature auto industry. Uh, and in the midst of that, if you introduce any kind of dynamics which are not in the spirit of a level playing field, you're going to probably damage the industry when it is still in its growth phase. And that's what I think the country is trying to balance, the government is trying to balance. Having said that, I think when somebody comes and plays by the same rules, there shouldn't be a differentiation. That I'm very, very clear about. And in my view, I think we as a country should not try to protect a domestic versus a foreign if they are playing by the same rules. Then it should be, same set of
The same set of rules. By that, do you mean the technology that in some sectors, they're ahead of not just auto, but other sectors as well? Or do you mean, the dumping practices or other practices that they may?
Sure. I think it's differential rules on how you can raise capital as an example. There shouldn't be. You shouldn't have a cost of capital advantage if you're operating in the same kind of market, right? So a domestic versus a foreign, or technology. If they've invested a lot of money in a particular technology, then they deserve to be able to bring that without any constraints, right? And the Indian companies should be willing to invest the same kind of capital in technology to stay ahead. So these are the kind of things. You similarly tax rules. You can't shouldn't have differentiation if somebody is operating within the same domestic rules as anybody else, right? So those are the kind of things that I'm talking about. Then it should be completely level playing field.
Right. And while we are on the technology, when you look at tech and finance, how far is it come, do you think? And how far or where is it headed?
I think it's very varied depending on industry, company, etc. I can speak specifically for the group. I think we are not there yet in terms of being at the forefront of technology. We do operate with one system as much as possible. We do have a lot of usage of new technology and tools, but can I put my hand on heart and say it's 100%? Absolutely not. We're probably 70% there, and we have to keep pushing to get to closer to 100%. But more importantly, I think it's the openness to bring in new things as they come about. I think that's going to be a crucial part of the evolution of our DNA on finance technology leadership. I think we have been followers in the past. I'm not looking to be necessarily the leader, but I don't want to be the 10th in place either. So I think we have to move up the pace of technology adoption as a group as well.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Any use cases that you can think of recent there wherein automation or AI has helped recently?
Very recently, in fact, just yesterday I reviewed. So, we have, as you rightly pointed out, we have 100 plus subsidiaries. Rolling up numbers for these many subsidiaries, estimates, essential part of what we do, looking at how the quarter is
Casting.
rolling up, the year is rolling up, etc., was done majorly in Excel. And the team has come up with a new way of doing it, which is going to be largely automated with no real requirement for clarification because everything will be captured in system. And the team even went further and said everything will be pre-populated other than the current quarter. So last quarter's numbers, last year's numbers, all the usual questions you would have, commentary on what are the changes. Everything is online, and that will eliminate the need for us to have any human intervention in that process other than the one person who has to put in the numbers. This is going to be a huge simplification for us as a company. And I'm really looking forward to this coming about. We have some work to do here, but the first kind of development version that I saw was very powerful.
Right. And now coming to the business of business aspect, a lot of focus is going on behind EVs right now of Mahindra and renewables as well. So, what is the broader strategy that the company is following currently when it comes to these two?
So I'll start first with the company is very aligned with what the customer needs. In the case of renewables, it is the need of India, the nation, that we move towards renewables. Um, it has translated into need of each of the state utilities, the central utilities, etc. They're our primary customer, and we believe it's the trend that will stay for a long time to come. It's driven by very compelling macro drivers, and it's also there's a lot of positive to the environment, etc., which just comes as a byproduct of that. But the macro is very compelling for India, and then our customers are moving towards it, and we are aligned with that. Similarly, on the EV side, we just see the world um, has moved towards more efficient, more software-driven vehicles. The powertrain becomes kind of secondary at a certain point of evolution of an automobile. It becomes the experience, it becomes the efficiency, it becomes the ease of operating, becomes primary. And that's the direction that we believe the Indian consumer is going to move towards as well, which is why we have been so focused on the EV journey. And oh, by the way, it also aligns really well with the with what the nation requires, which is less dependence on alternate sources of energy and more driven by renewables, electricity, etc. So any which way you look at it, these are two large macro trends that we are aligned with, and that's where we have aligned ourselves.
Right.
So the EV journey is something we are very proud of. We have been very thoughtful. The team in Auto has just done an incredible job of understanding what drives the Indian consumer, and we are very excited about where this is
In renewables, are there any new ventures that the company is thinking about? A lot of expansion or interest is being shown by a lot of conglomerates around power generation, be it through solar or wind, and green hydrogen is something that everybody is exploring. So, will it be going forward? Mahindra going for these renewables which are which are being used by its passenger vehicles, or I mean to say they are integrated with what you want to use, your journey towards renewables, or will it be towards uh, you know power generation or any other venture that you may think would prove beneficial?
Sure. Uh, the Our renewables focus is more on the development of generating capacity. Doesn't necessarily have a direct tie with our EV business, right? There is more an indirect tie because both are ultimately focused on that end objective of the country's macro dynamic, which is less reliance on fossil fuels, right? Uh, so let me explain a little bit of how we are thinking about the renewable sector. We believe the country is going to uh, remain on this trajectory it has on renewables, which is roughly around 50 gigawatt of renewable capacity being added every year. The composition of the 50 gigawatt is going to move more and more from uh, very focused on solar to solar plus wind, so more hybrid power projects, to eventually also moving towards battery storage because that will become essential uh, for sustainability for kind of a consistent supply to the grid from these projects. So when you think about how we are thinking about um, investing in renewables, we are looking to build our capability in solar, continue to build that, right? How do you make more and more efficient solar plants? But we are building on top of that wind capability, and we are building on top of that battery capability. So that's how we're looking at the building blocks of the business. We have an aspiration to take our current set of projects from around 1.5 gigawatt of installed capacity, which is what we sold to our renewable InvIT, to 7 over the course of the next uh, 3 to 5 years. So an incremental 5.4 gigawatt. And we see the nature of those projects shifting more and more from pure vanilla solar to more in the nature of wind and solar, and then eventually wind solar plus battery, which is why we are investing in building our capability.
Right. Coming back to the passenger vehicle business, a lot of differentiation. I mean, the thought has been differentiation, being into SUVs, and so will that continue, or a lot of because the economics of India are also suggesting one other trend, which is there is a premiumization trend which is happening in the market, but there is an also there is a trend where second hand cars are also, you have Mahindra first choice is there in that sector. But in that sense, hatchbacks have also become a very viable option for the people who cannot afford the XUVs of the world. So moving forward, the directionally will it be towards SUVs premiumization, or will there be an interest towards smaller cars also?
So, Shravan, let me just break this into two pieces. One is the where we see the market going.
Right.
The market is going to be a very vibrant market because of what I explained earlier, which is, 26 vehicles per thousand to
Yeah.
potential, which could be 10 times to 20 times that if you look at a developed nation, right? So that's where the market's going to go. Within that market, there'll be a requirement for almost everything that you described. There will be a large requirement for SUVs. There will be a very large requirement for smaller vehicles. There will be a very large requirement for hatchbacks versus premium to not so premium, because it is going to become a very vibrant market. That's part one. Then part two of it is what do we want to focus on as a group? And there we looked at what is our strength. You can try to solve everything, but what we have been really good at is SUVs, and that's what we want to build ourselves on. Okay.
Right.
And by the way, throughout what I explained in terms of the vibrancy of the market, the one underlying trend that has been very compelling is the SUV trend. The move towards, even in the smaller segments, more ask for an SUV, which is a raised stance, more kind of ability to have larger number of people fit in, the higher ground clearance, etc. What defines an SUV? That is also a big segment evolving in the, let's call it, less than 10 lakh range as well. So we're not going to ignore that. That's where the 3XO is, and that is a segment that is going to be a big part of this vibrant, um, you know, auto industry that is going to develop in India. And so, but we want to remain true to what is our strength, which is SU.
And we have a US trade deal that may soon be announced. We already have UK-India FTA, which was signed recently, on the details of which are not you know decided as yet, and it will still take time. But there are some thoughts in the auto industry, and how phase wise there will be entry given to the UK players. So how do you see this in terms of your own business, and what thoughts or things that you can share with us?
See, we see anything which allows uh, movement of goods and services freer than it is today as an opportunity, right? Both ways. We have businesses which have growth aspirations internationally. They will benefit from having easier ways of doing business cross border. We have we similarly look at an opportunity to partner with somebody who might want to come to India. And so we look at just all of these as net positive for business. Um, and the more there is proliferation of options for the Indian consumer, the more the Indian consumer's aspirations are going to grow, the more the market is going to grow faster. So net, we see it as a positive. As I mentioned to you earlier in one of the questions, level playing field is the only thing we want coming out of these. Sometimes, they may not be for various reasons. We always want to put nation first. So I think we'll always support the government when it is. But as much as possible, if there can be level playing field, I think we see it as a net positive for business.
As in your previous responses also, you mentioned that there is a focus on certain entities and their growth. How do you look at the cost factor among these subsidiaries, and what is that what are those metrics that you feel, I mean, that these are pro growth vis-a-vis, I mean, if their costs are high, these are the metrics that these are the things that the business can still sustain, but this is a no, or this is where we draw the line. So how do you see cost in this environment?
See, for a business that is in a growth mode, small in scale but looking to scale up, any cost that is incurred towards capability building, I highly encourage. So how do I define capability building? You are looking at a certain aspiration. To realize that aspiration, let's take an example. A business says, I want to grow my volume from 100 to 200. Um, to go from 100 to 200 of volume of something you produce, you need very strong manufacturing capability. You need automation. You need to have new age vision systems and AI helping you to be the most efficient supply chain. That's capability building. Somebody comes and says, I want to incur cost to build this. We highly encourage that. Not just me, but our MD and CEO is very always encouraging the team to think big and invest in capability building. The kind of costs which are actually the opposite of that is where you say, I am not looking to build capability, I'm looking to solve by throwing a lot of kind of effort behind something. There, usually it is in the nature of um, operating costs. It's not really capability building. There, we will have a view on, is this the best? Is this where you should be adding? Right? You're really not solving for the future. You're only solving for the present. And so I think capability building is positive. Solving just for the present, not thinking about the future, and doing that in a way where it is not driving efficiency is where I would say it's not great cost. Another form of cost which I usually find to be not very helpful is where you kind of what uh, in many businesses is called sustenance cost. I just want to keep maintaining a certain level of business. Um, Over time, if we are investing in capability, sustenance cost should come down. That's how I look at it. So those are the two things that I will say.
And coming to again the business, uh, what is the capex target that you have for FY26? Since a lot of new ventures are also not new ventures, but new strides are being taken forward in renewables and other sectors. And are you planning any fundraise in the near future to fund it?
Let me answer the second question first, because I think that's an important one. Um, we are a near zero debt company, and we have a lot of cash on our balance sheet, close to 30,000 crores on a of cash, and we have the ability to keep generating a significant amount of cash today, given the scale in some of our businesses. So as of this time, we don't see the need for any other source of funds other than internally generated funds, unless we are looking for validation of our business plans. Sometimes you enter a new area and you need experts in that area to come in and look at you can get a consultant to look at it, but the best validation always is a funding partner who comes in and does a thorough due diligence of your plans and say this makes sense. And that's when you would say, and it makes sense, and that's why I want to put my money into it. So I think that's the only one time we would look at it, but in general, we are not uh, looking for a fundraise. Now, coming to your first question of what is our capex plan, we'd laid out a capex plan. We had said over the 25 to 27 period, we have a certain amount of capex that we intend to spend money on. It's around 30,000 crores, and we are well on track for that. That includes the 26 year 26. A lot of that is going to go into auto and farm, but a lot of it is also going to go into our growth gems. We've got aspirations in our hospitality business. We've got aspirations in our life spaces business. We've just done a rights issue in our life spaces business. We have infused equity into our Mahindra Finance franchise to help them grow. So growth is going to be the focus, right? And most of it will be internally generated capital.
Any M&A opportunities that the company is seeking, or any sectors that it is looking, or any new opportunity or segments that it is after, in diligence mode?
Yeah, so we have been very transparent that we continue to look for good opportunities which are aligned with India's growth story, right? And so far, none of that has translated into a new sector. Most of that has come in adjacencies of our existing sectors. An example is what we just did with SML, as you are aware. So we continue to look for opportunities to add scale to our businesses through growth in adjacencies. But we are also open to at least one sector which is aligned with India's growth story. What that sector is still something we are evaluating. We know we prefer something that is consumer facing, because Indian consumer is what is going to propel a lot of India's growth. But we'll have to see what that is. We still haven't locked it down, and we continue to look. And
Right.
as far as international is concerned, anything that enables our businesses who have international aspirations, we'll continue to look at as well. So yes, on M&A we are active and we continue to.
Right. A lot of cash on the balance sheet. Why not?
Yes, we would deploy it. I mean, see, if we didn't think we could deploy it more effectively, we would have just dividended it out. We believe there's plenty of opportunity, and so that's why we are keeping it on the balance sheet.
Right. Now, moving to another section of this interview, which is a rapid fire round. I have a few questions for you, wherein if
Yeah.
you could answer quickly, that would be great.
Yes.
Starting with my first question, which is, what is that one financial ratio you monitor every single week or frequently?
I would love to focus on cash. It's a very important metric. It gives you a great sense of health of the business.
Right. A business unit in the group that you believe is a dark horse,
And how do you define a dark horse, just to be sure?
which is that it will be a very big business in the future, or something that will, yeah.
I think we have tremendous opportunity in our hospitality and our components business. These could scale up to be significant in the future.
Capital allocation or cost control, what's the tougher call?
Capital allocation.
Coffee or tea?
Tea. Clearly tea. I'm from Assam. Totally biased towards tea.
Yeah, great. One word on work-life balance.
Essential.
Marketing as a cost center or avenue for growth?
Avenue for growth.
A company in India or globally you admire for financial discipline?
Amazon.
Biggest myth people have about CFOs?
That we are very difficult to deal with.
In one word, the future of mobility in India is?
It's limitless.
What's more important in a finance leader, empathy or efficiency?
Both. You cannot be just about efficiency. You lose the team and you lose the organization.
One soft skill every young finance professional should master?
They must understand business, and that means being the ability to interact with business and not be in their rooms or their cubicles, right? Very important.
If not a CFO, you would be?
A professor.
That's a very secure answer.
No, actually, I always wanted to. I went down, I did an economics honors. I thought I'm going to go to London School of Economics or Delhi School of Economics and become a professor. Life took me elsewhere, but
Yeah.
it was something that I was
Yeah.
aspiring to.
Right now you are teaching, a lot of subsidiaries as well. So
Well,
hopefully
I don't know about that, but
it augurs well. Lastly, if you had to give advice to the young finance professional who are, let's say, in their 20s or early 30s, who want to be where you are today, or do well in their careers, what's the advice that you, of with your experience, will give them?
focus on depth. Breath will come. See, a lot of people want to do everything very early in life. It is very important to go deep, whether you are in a sub function or whether you are in a business. Uh, Once you understand how business operates, after that, going broad becomes easier.
Right. Well, thank you so much, Mr. Barua, for joining us today and answering all my questions thoroughly. It was pleasure having you here, and I think depth is something that everybody needs. And it, I mean, from your experience, that you know from oil and gas, and you mentioned in the start that you had an international experience, as well as you had areas where you went deep. So I think that advice also comes from there. Thank you so much once again. It was pleasure hosting you, and we'll continue to have these conversations. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Shiva.